pretty heavy heart today, as you know, with
right.
Sutter dying. But he was the first great closer of all the ones that the Cardinals have had in recent years. I guess maybe Hrabosky was the first one, but then you go to Sutter, and the line goes from there with Worrell and Lee Smith and Henke and Gossage and Rosenthal, and but Sutter was the first of the lot.
He had a great career, and he was a game changer in so many ways. The way that he was used, all the multiple inning appearances. I mean, the split finger fastball, which he sort of brought into a more prominence, to say the least, in the major leagues. But if you could, Commish, before we get into some of the baseball stuff, could you please talk about the kind of person he was, the kind of man he was, what it was like to be around him when he was in the middle of all the pressure as a closer. Just give us your thoughts on how he handled his life and how he handled his work. Oh, okay. We'll get him back here.
We'll work on this here real quick.
Okay. Should I talk?
Yeah, we can keep talking because we're dialing them up as we speak. But as you mentioned, Bruce is quite a man and an individual, and we got Rick back with us now.
All right. Commish, I don't know if you heard the question, but I just wanted your thoughts on him as a man, a person, and how he handled his life and how he handled his work, his job.
Well, first, I didn't want to omit Jason Isringhausen, that great long list of closers that I reeled off there, since he had the record for saves for a while. Now, for the club, he was a great man. He had not many family issues, but his wife had been sick for a number of years, had 4 cancer operations, and he tended to her for the last 20 or 25 years, and then all of a sudden he gets cancer and he's dead in 10 days. He had Parkinson's and some other things wrong too, but he was a solid guy in every way, and he helped me a lot. And before I got the Hall of Fame award in 2007, he calmed me down a lot when I was pretty nervous. He said, just relax, and he talked me through it, and there's a lot of good things about him.
Well, Commission, I wanted to follow up on something, because one of the things I said earlier is that I wasn't sure if he had suffered through a lengthy illness, and I said, as everyone hopes, that he didn't suffer too much. So you suggested that it was a situation where maybe he was fortunate in that he didn't have a long drawn out illness that was very, very, very difficult to deal with over a period of time. Was it limited to where he found out he had cancer and then he passed shortly thereafter?
Well, the cancer diagnosis came down about maybe 10 days or a couple of weeks ago. He had Parkinson's already, and then he broke his arm in a fall, and left arm, and they did some MRIs on it. He didn't have any feeling in his arm, and then they did some MRIs and discovered a whole potload of tumors and stuff going on in the rest of his body, and that was it. There's so much to ask you, Commish, with your historical knowledge and personal knowledge of him.
What was different about the closer job then? In other words, what distinguished him, especially when we compare his era to what we see now in Major League Baseball? Well, he just wanted to have the split-fingered pitch. Pitch had a fastball, sort of, and maybe a breaking ball. He didn't throw that very often, but the split-finger pitch was such that he never threw it for strikes, but they kept swinging at it anyway. It looked like a strike for a while, and then by the time they swung the bat's going through the hitting zone, and the ball's at his ankles. And it's a strike. It counts as a strike. And also, I saw a stat today of the 300 saves he had, 188 were of more than one inning. Wow.
And you won't see that. I mean, Trevor Hoffman basically had all of his in one inning. That's just where the game changed. He had 600 saves, but there were 600 innings.
That's just staggering. I mean, I was generally aware of that, but to actually have it quantified the way you just did, that's astonishing. It really was. Now, was it a matter of the fact that that split finger can be really hard on your arm, your elbow, your shoulder, whatever? You think that pitch, which gave him such a great life and a Hall of Fame career, do you think that pitch, in effect, cut his career short?
Well, I was talking to Whitey about this a little while ago, and he thought that the thumb took most of the brunt of that. He said you could hear the thumb pop on the bench when he was pitching, and if he threw a lot of pitches, he couldn't use them the next day because his thumb was sore. But Whitey said that when they got to it, and when Sutter signed with Atlanta, and Mike Rourke wasn't around anymore, somehow Bruce got into a different delivery down there. Johnny Same was the pitching coach, an outstanding pitcher, an outstanding pitching coach, but somehow Sutter's arm got out of whack as far as his release point, and he got a sore shoulder in his first season, and he had a 6-year deal, and he pitched about, 2 of those years basically, and he was all done. He kept trying to come back because he had 6 years on split finger pitch or anything else. He just was sore all the time.
Commish, take us back to 1982 and the ballpark and the World Series. Well, the postseason, first of all, the entire postseason, but then you get to the World Series. What was the confidence level every time that Bruce Sutter entered a game? Because obviously every pitch he threw was going to be crucial to the game, one way or the other. But what was the confidence level like? Did everyone feel really good knowing he was about to come in and take over?
Oh, yeah. Ozzie Smith said today it was 99.9% that he was going to close. He was a little high with that, but not too much. And especially against the Brewers, who had lost Raleigh Fingers before the series with an injury. He was the equivalent of Sutter, just a different kind of pitcher, a slider pitcher. And in fact, for those with real long memories, will note that Sutter and Fingers were teammates for 2 days together in that wild winter meetings week in Dallas in 1980 when Herzog had traded for Fingers first and then Sutter. And then Herzog asked Fingers if he would be upset if he brought in Sutter to face a left-handed hitter in the 9th inning with the tying run on base, and Fingers said he would. So he says, okay, I'm going to trade you.
Listen, I want to direct people to go, not that they wouldn't anyway, but go to stltoday.com. Commish has a really good story up in terms of talking to former Cardinals and teammates of Bruce Sutter and, talking about their reaction, but also just what he meant. So, and I'm sure there's more of that coming. It's a great piece, though. It really, really is. Can you share, what else did Whitey have to say? Because he's always the final source on all of this stuff from that era, in terms of putting it all into perspective or giving this the history of what obviously was such a huge move in Cardinals baseball history, getting him.
Well, we talked a lot about losing him also to the Atlanta Braves, who had a better offer than the Cardinals, and all Sutter wanted, Whitey said, he was a no-trade contract, and Whitey took that to August the 3rd and was rebuffed, and so Whitey, of course, laid this at the Brewers' head that August 3rd said that Sutter wasn't around anymore, and because he wouldn't pay him the money or give him the no trade. He said August told him that he had to be a 5-10 guy to get a no trade, and Sutter wasn't either one of those. He was 9 years in the big leagues and 4 with the Cardinals. He was a year away from being a 5-10 guy to get that kind of protection. So he blames the Brewery for losing Sutter, which is in effect is probably right. And then Sutter, as it turned out, got hurt anyway, and the Cardinals reinvented their bullpen by committee, and then they got Worrell later, and they were fine after Sutter left, but it didn't look like way in December of '84.
He just seemed like such a good guy. I wish I got to know him better, but he was he as low key as he seemed? Just in the way he conducted his business when he was performing, but away from the field, as they say, he just doesn't seem like a guy that really felt he needed the spotlight or a lot of attention. Is that accurate?
He didn't want the spotlight at all.
Yeah, and
in my career, when for some reason, I got into a habit of talking to him only when he had blown a save rather than when he had gained a save. And he said, come on now, I've blown 2 and saved 30. What's the deal here? And he was probably right about that. I just had taken him for granted a little bit. And he also had a big bucket of beer he'd be drinking with Gene Tennis and some of the other veteran players after the game. And I wandered over there one night just looking to interview him, and I stepped right in the bucket. I didn't even see it. It was quite a jolting moment there.
It's unbelievable. It's just something. Well, one of the all-time greats, and I appreciate you spending some time talking about him a little bit. I know that everyone around the ballpark has missed him in recent ceremonies, and he's had a lot to deal with, and just such a good man. I mean, just a good man. So happy to be at home, and even under tough circumstances, didn't feel like he had to jump all around all the time. I mean, there's something to be said for that. He was a really dignified guy, but what a great Cardinal.
Well, he always came into the opening day ceremonies when he was healthy,
right?
And even to the Hall of Fame ceremonies in July when he was healthy. And he went to Cooperstown while ailing to see Jim Cott go in to the National Hall of Fame in late July, because that was his teammate and that was his friend. And Kitty really appreciated that. And then, here we are, 3 months later, less than that, and he's dead.
Yeah, it's just awful. I was surprised to hear it this morning. And Commish, you're the best. And when anything happens that deals with the past, whether it is, unfortunately, the passing of a Cardinal or, news along those lines, or just something really positive as well, someone getting an award in honor, someone, whatever it is. I mean, you're the guy to go to. You're the touchstone, so you're greatly appreciated. Your stories on these men are always
it's hard from a personal standpoint, but
yeah.
That's what you have to do sometimes. You have to put your feelings aside and try to convey the nature of the man. And in the course of that, the number of interviews I had today, we had a few laughs along the way, remembering some of the funny stuff that happened and some of the good stuff, and you don't feel good about it, but you feel better.
Right. Understandable. That's why, whenever there's a wake, whoever the wake is for, usually it does kind of end up or veer into storytelling and remembering the good times. And that's the way it should be, because that's how you want to, you take a measure of a guy's life and career and some of the things that just made him a special person, and you tell some stories that are really funny. That's the only way to do it, I think. So, and you're particularly good being a part of that type of process. So you're great, actually. Not particularly good. You're great. You're awesome at it.
Well, thank you, Ozzie Smith. We were noting that I wondered what he thought when he saw the Darrell Porter single, that fastball sign for Gorman Thomas at the end of the '82 series, 9th inning, 2 outs, and Ozzie said to himself, "Be careful." He estimated the pitch traveled at about 84 miles an hour, but Gorman Thomas was bamboozled by it all and swung right through it.
I know. Well, I wonder what everybody would have thought if something went wrong there. My goodness, I don't even imagine it.
They had a little bit of a cushion. It was 6-3 at the time, so they could afford one bomb. But he had so much adrenaline going, and he was probably throwing maybe 86.
He's the best. You're the best. Thanks for your time today, man. I know very, very busy for the wrong reasons, and we'll talk to you, I hope, next week.
I hope so, too. Thanks.
Thank you, my friend. That's the great Rick Hummel. Go to stltoday.com. Great story online already about, as you would expect, about Bruce Sutter, but also more to come, too. But, yeah, Commish, he's got that list of former Cardinals of all these eras, and as soon as, there's something relevant about one of their friends or teammates, and whether it's good or bad, I mean, Commish starts working that phone list, and nobody does it better, and nobody gets the best stories like him.